Number 8. Hanna-Barbera Antidrug PSA. This spot, warning about illegal drugs in general, was produced by the famed animation studio Hanna-Barbera in the early 1970s. It begins with a guy taking a puff of a groovy cigarette. It's worth mentioning how many kids watching even knew what this was supposed to refer to, before swirling into an animated fantasy world populated with uppers, downers, screamers, and laughers, as Hunter S. Thompson might say. With what appears to be an anthropomorphic joint as his guide, he's led to an ominous set of double doors. It's all been fairly innocuous to this point, so small children could be forgiven for shrieking in terror when the zombies appear to drag him to whatever hell they came from. Our terrified hero begins to zombify, as well as the doors slam shut, and the spot ends. It's interesting to note that at no time are we informed that this is a public service announcement, and it seems likely that at least a few younger children came away terrified of cigarettes, aspirin, and doors. The short was animated by Art Babbitt, an animator famous for his work with Disney, who was the animation director of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs and Fantasia, among others. Number 7. The effects can be devastating. Fire Kills is a national radio and television ad campaign run by the government of the UK in conjunction with every single fire and rescue authority in England. Its TV spots are known to be unsettling, and this one is certainly no exception. The unseen narrator imparts a series of tips as to what to do in the event of a kitchen fire, while slow-motion footage of a fireman responding to just such an event is played. The dramatic footage ends with the advice to never, ever throw water on a stove fire, and in the final shot, we see the narrator sitting behind her microphone as she informs us in a chilling tone of voice that
the effects can be devastating.
While it certainly must have taken a great deal of bravery for this woman to show us just how devastating the effects can be, this image likely gave a generation of British children nightmares, with the helpful side effect of never forgetting what not to do in the event of a kitchen fire. Number 6. Electricity, football. In the late 1980s, a series of government-produced public safety films about the dangers of electricity were aired in the United Kingdom, each more disturbing than the last. They generally featured reckless teenagers breaking into power substations to retrieve things like frisbees and kites to meet gruesome ends, and this 1989 spot titled Football was the most gruesome of them all. Ignoring a sign plainly marked "Danger of Death, Keep Out," two older boys and a younger boy enter a substation to get their football. One of the older boys is promptly electrocuted, and we see his smoking body in a point-of-view shot as the younger child rushes to try to help him before suffering the same fate, dying in an exploding shower of sparks. This PSA campaign was criticized by some for being a little too grisly for kids, but there can be little denying that they got their point across, perhaps a little too effectively.
Stay safe. Stay out. Don't take a chance with electricity.
Number 5. Hip Choice. The Canadian nonprofit Companies Committed to Kids began producing PSAs in 1989. While the vast majority of them are more informative and upbeat, there are a couple that adhere to the scare their pants off aesthetic of previous decades. The 1993 spot Hip Choice sets this tone immediately with its truly disturbing looking puppets. A pair of grubby children approach a sketchy man in an alley, who proceeds to offer them literal handfuls of all manner of illicit drugs. As a series of stills of famous overdose victims flashes on the screen, the kids proclaim drugs a waste of time. The dealer then turns to the camera, removes his sunglasses, and sends all the younger children screaming into the arms of their mothers at the sight of his hideous yellow eyes. This spot was also shown in an abridged version with a briefer shot of those horrifying eyes, and another with an alternate ending used in later airings, where the dealer simply hangs his head. Perhaps not quite as effective, but certainly less nightmare-inducing.
What do you think?
Nah, it's just not worth the time.
A message from Concerned Children's Advertisers.
Number 4. Snake Man. This American PSA from the early 1990s decided to abandon all pretense of screwing around and scaring children away from drug dealers. It shows a dealer completing his most recent sale, who then turns to the camera and addresses us as if we are his next customer. As he talks about his high-rolling lifestyle and all the terrible things people will do for his product, he walks, and as he walks, he transforms. By the final shot, he is an actual human snake, hissing and snapping, and some unfortunate young viewers were likely put off of any and all interactions with adults. This short and startling spot aired throughout most of the decade, and older viewers noticed a clever theft which added to its creepy effect. The Snake Man's transformation echoes the classic Twilight Zone episode, The Howling Man, in which a prisoner in a monastery transforms into the devil in an almost identical series of shots.
Now, some folks will tell you that I'm dealing in poison, but hey, do I look like the kind of guy that would do that to a kid like you? Yes!
Number 3. Lonely Water. A series of children's drowning deaths in early 1970s Britain prompted the creation of this short, easily the longest on our list at 1.5 minutes. Lonely Water aired throughout the 1970s in the UK, as its producers, the Central Office of Information, decided that a childhood full of nightmares was a fair exchange for not drowning. The short's voiceover is provided by a terrifying, faceless, cloaked figure, the spirit of Lonely Water, who shows us all of the ordinary, everyday places that it can strike. The spirit professes ghoulish admiration for show-offs and the foolhardy, spitefully lamenting that it has no power over the sensible children.
Get him out!
Sensible children. I have no power over them.
The spot is remembered decades later, placing 4th in a 2006 poll asking Britain's favorite public information film. Confirming its creepy pedigree, the narration is provided by veteran actor Donald Pleasance, who would go on to portray psychiatrist Sam Loomis in John Carpenter's Halloween.
Only a fool would ignore this. But there's one born every minute.
Number 2. Monkey on Their Backs. This 10-second spot, produced in the early 70s, opens on a toy monkey clapping its cymbals together. A little girl's voice intones,
They say people addicted to heroin have a monkey on their back. Isn't that cute?
and then this happens. This sucker punch of a clip aired early and often throughout the 1970s, and viewers remember that, if anything, it got even more unsettling once you knew what was coming. The YouTube subgenre of screamers, which similarly employ unexpected smash cuts or zooms with loud, scary audio cues, is said to have been directly inspired by this clip. And if a generation of children experience a sort of primal horror at even the thought of doing heroin, this damn monkey may very well have something to do with it. As a side note, the Stephen King short story, The Monkey, in which a toy monkey causes someone to die whenever it claps its cymbals, was first published in Gallery magazine in 1980. King has never said that this clip was an influence on his story, so we're gonna go ahead and do it for him. Number 1. Mask. Finally, this fire prevention PSA from the early 70s stars the lovely actress Joanne Cassidy, who would perhaps become best known as the replicant Zara in the 1982 science fiction classic Blade Runner. In the spot, she addresses the camera directly, explaining that the forests are precious places that can be undone with a moment of thoughtlessness, and asking viewers to please be careful next time they are in the woods. As she finishes speaking, she reaches behind her head and rips off her entire human face to reveal that she's actually Smokey the Bear in a Joanna Cassidy mask. Smokey's point? Reasonably enough. If you'd known it was me, would you have listened? Cassidy's mesmerizing and oddly sinister delivery set the strange tone for this reveal, and adding to the jolting creepiness of the unexpected climax are the brief few frames in which an actual mask appears to have been used, happening so quickly that it's difficult to spot and adding an off-putting subliminal element of wrongness to the whole thing. The spot may not have convinced a generation of children to put an end to forest fires, but it certainly got their attention and perhaps delayed puberty by a few years.
A careless match or cigarette and poof, fire. So the next time you're in the forest, be extra careful, okay?
If you knew it was me, would you have listened?
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Do you have memories of a public service announcement that left you sleepless? Let everyone know in the comments below. And be sure to send your creepy countdowns and spooky tales to the email in the description. And we'll see you again soon.